Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 440 of the No Sugarcoating Podcast. And 4 plus 4 equals 8. And that is the number of abundance. So, what a great number today, episode of the podcast. How are all of you all over the world? I hope you are well. I'm sending so much love. I'm really excited for this week's conversation. I have this conversation with so many of my clients, and it's been coming up so much lately. And I'm so grateful because not only do I get to coach my clients out of this and have I worked through this, but I get to then create it into a podcast topic to share with all of you. So this week, we are going to be diving into catching the ego F-it mentality with food and other things. That F-it, right? That F-U-C-K mentality. I don't know why I don't really like to say drop the F-bomb much on the podcast. It's just not something I say often. So I just stick with the F-it mentality. But if you want to say that, you can. What creates this mindset and behavior? We're going to explore that and dive deep into that, because the more you understand it, the more you can shift it. And what are some of the first steps that you can take to start overcoming the F-it mentality? We're going to dive into all that. So be sure to stay tuned. A couple quick announcements, because I really want to hear from you. All the details for today's episode will be found at amberapproved.ca/podcast/440. A couple things. If you're resonating with today's episode, you're like, I am totally always in the F-it mentality. My ego's so loud. My ego's an asshole. I don't know how to deal with my ego. I feel like I'm constantly getting overwhelmed and frustrated with like the house being a mess when I get home and no one taking care of it, or people stressing me out and I feel spread too thin. And then I just go, F it, I'm going to just go eat the cake. I'm going to go eat the food. I'm going to self-sabotage. But then you're feeling so guilty and so much shame and so exhausted of being in this cycle of self-sabotage with food, then I really encourage you to reach out and book a 30-minute body freedom consultation so that we can explore one-on-one coaching to potentially go on the journey together to address this ego mindset, break this old pattern of the F-it mentality, and bring in more of the mentality of, instead of F-it, to go, let me take a moment and actually go, no, I'm not going to say F it. I'm going to look at myself and look at, what do I need? And why is it important to give myself something that I really need in the moment where I just want to throw it all out the window and throw myself under the bus? We don't want to do that anymore. And I can help you to take your power back from your ego. I can help you quiet that voice in the mind. I can help you build more balance with your mentality and break that pattern and help you fully overcome binge eating, emotional eating, whatever is going on for you. So you can go to amberapproved.ca and book your 30-minute body freedom consultation. As well, if you have things going on like inflammation, gut issues, hormone imbalances, we can work on all that too. Second, I just wanted to put the feelers out there. So if you're interested in this, please send me a quick email to info@amberapproved.ca, subject line mastermind. But last fall, I launched the Body Freedom Mastermind, and it was a mix of group and one-on-one support where we did bi-weekly 60-minute sessions, and I coached each of the individual women in the group. And then there was also a series of 3 45-minute one-on-one sessions, plus Voxer, plus a hormone test. And for some of the women, it was just like a better price point for them, and they wanted support. And they also got to be in a community, got some one-on-one, and got group. So I'm just curious to get my feelers out to see if anyone is interested in that. I'm debating either potentially looking at starting something like that in November, or maybe end of January into February, if there is enough interest. So let me know. I really enjoyed leading it last year, and I'm also trying to not drop too much at once. So if that's something you're interested in and you want to come and join us, info@amberapproved.ca, subject line mastermind. It's going to be, the investment would be, I'll have to think about that. You let me know and I'll let you know the pricing. Okay. So, but it's like, actually just delete that part. So if you're interested and you want to learn more about the mastermind, like pricing details, etc., and it's something you feel called to reach out to, info@amberapproved.ca, subject line mastermind. So let's dive right in. Catching the ego F-it mentality with food and other things. Okay. So what exactly is this F-it mentality? Well, I'm going to just give some examples right off the bat, but this totally used to be me. So many of my clients go through this as well. I just feel like our egos, which is that negative voice in the mind, just gets so loud and so critical, and we get overbooked and exhausted and overwhelmed. And then we're just like, F it. I don't care. I'm just going to go to food. What's one more time? What's one more time? And that's the kind of mentality that we get into. And we just throw ourselves under the bus. We continue to self-sabotage. We go into this tunnel vision, and then we're just like, who cares? what's one more time? And it's kind of, that's the justification. What's one more time? And it's so important to understand that that one more time adds up into 3 more times this week, adds up into 8 more times this week, adds up into like 5 more months, 5 more years. And we don't want that to happen, because that's causing a lot of suffering for you, physically, emotionally, energetically. And then that ripples out into your world, your relationships, your family, your work, your career, your business, your quality of life, the way you do or don't show up in your life. But this justification of what's the point? What's a little bit more, right? What's one more time? That's the ego trying to convince you it's not a big deal when it is a big deal. And I went through that. So when I was binge eating, and to the point where I had my low point where I ate out of my garbage can, leading up to that, I was in denial that like the binge eating that I was going through was a big deal. And I was like, it's not that big of a deal. What's one more time? What's one more time? It's not a big deal. What's another 5 pounds? And that was another like F it mentality. It was like, well, I need my dopamine high. I need my pleasure response. I want my food. I need my sugar fix. I'm already up 3. What's another 3 pounds? What's another 5? What's another 10? And then 10 pounds of weight gain turned into 20, turned into 30, turned into 50, almost 60. And then it's like, holy crap, like, oh my gosh, now it's all of a sudden a lot. And now it feels debilitating and overwhelming, disempowering, embarrassing, stressful to think about. Now I've got all this weight that I want to lose. Right. So it could be that kind of effort mentality, like, what's a few more pounds? I'm already here. I've already gained weight. I've already had to get bigger clothes. And we go into this like ego, judgy, victimhood mentality of justification, and it's not that big of a deal. And I don't want you to be hard on yourself if you gain weight or if you go into self-sabotage, because it's not like being hard on yourself just makes it worse. However, it is understanding that as soon as we go into this effort, what's a little bit more, what's a few more pounds, what's another night of one more binge, it won't make a difference. Like it does make a difference because it accumulates. And usually you don't just catch it after the one more binge. Then there's a binge the next night, and maybe then there's one 3 days later. And then the following week, maybe it happens every night, or it goes from happening once a month to every week, or every week to every day. And then you're like, oh my gosh, it's getting worse. Like, what do I do? And it can feel very exhausting and very draining to be in this dynamic. And that's why I think it's so important to talk about this today, because I know a lot of you are going through this or have gone through this or are trying to work through this right now. And I want to help you bring more awareness to it to help you overcome it. So there's this whole effort mentality, and essentially, you know, a couple other examples. So it's like, what's the point? What's a few more pounds? What's the point? It's just one more binge. It's just one more night of doing this, one more afternoon of not caring, right? I'll try harder tomorrow, right? Or maybe you go into the effort mentality. Maybe you intend to like treat your body well today. You intend to take your vitamins and drink more water and eat nourishing food. And maybe you want to do a little self-care tonight. And then it's like someone brings Halloween candy into the office, or like your favorite cupcakes from your favorite bakery, or your favorite like bread, or just like something that, or maybe your coworkers are all like, hey, like we're going to get takeout for lunch, but you brought your lunch and you're like, oh, who cares? I'm going to get the takeout. And then you order like the thing that makes you the most bloated and puffy, but you're like, oh, I want that. Right. And then you have the thing that was unexpectedly brought into the office or brought to your work or brought to wherever you are, your house. And you have one. And then you're like, F it, the day is ruined. I don't care. I'm going to eat whatever I want. And that triggers the F it mentality. And you're like, I've already failed. Who cares? What's the point? What's one more day? What's one more binge? What's one more indulgence? What's one more blah, blah, blah. Right? And often one thing that will keep amplifying this effort mentality is because we're often quite tired and fatigued in the first place. And the more tired we are, well, guess what? The more irregular our appetite levels, our blood sugar levels. And the more irregular our appetite and blood sugar levels are, the more increased cravings we have for processed sugar, salt, refined salt, carbohydrates. Like I'm talking processed carbohydrates, not like whole grains and stuff, right? And then your cravings are amplified, and that makes it easier to justify, F it, who cares? I want this, right? Another example tied to that is like, oh, I'm already craving and it feels too hard to like fight the craving. F it, it's going to be easier to just give into it, right? But when we're fatigued and we have these cravings, and when we're fatigued as well, not only do we have increased cravings, however, we also usually have an increased appetite level. I talked about this before, but the more fatigued we are, the more ghrelin we produce. And ghrelin is the hunger hormone that makes us feel hungry. And we produce higher levels of it when we're tired. And so that means even after you eat, you still may not feel fully satiated. And then you're eating more. And then it makes you more susceptible to overeat and mindlessly indulge and go into the effort mentality with food. Okay. And then, like I talked about earlier, maybe your situation is you have had a very busy day, a very full day. You get home, the house is a mess. The dishes aren't done. You have to make dinner. No one's holding up their word to the chores they're supposed to get done. And you just look around and you're like, what is the freaking point? Nobody's doing their part, so why should I do mine? And then you go into the effort mentality and you go eat the stuff, right? Or maybe your mentality is, and I don't even like saying this because I don't want to affirm it anyway, because I don't believe this, but for some people it's like, well, the world's going to crap anyway, so what's the point, right? This happened today, so what's the point? I'm already feeling like garbage. Oh, this was mine. This was one of mine. I'm already bloated. I didn't even eat anything crappy, but I'm already bloated, so what's the point? I might as well go and indulge. F it. I'm already bloated. The wind made me bloated, or I'm upset, whatever it is. Like, I might as well, who cares? Might as well do it because I'm already bloated. So that's another one. Oh, one sec. You guys are going to see this on YouTube. I have to get a package. So for those of you that watch on YouTube, you get the real raw in the moment. I just had to go and grab a package at the door. My ashwagandha. I love ashwagandha. It's so good for your adrenal health. Anyways, so it's like, what's the point? This happened. What's the point? I already feel bloated. What's the point? And then we go into that effort mentality. Okay. So that gives you a lot of different examples of what this effort mentality chatter can sound like in the mind. Or maybe you say it out loud. Which ones resonate for you? Maybe I didn't share it, but now that you have this awareness coming up, what does your effort mentality say? Right? Grab a journal. These podcast episodes are full of great questions and journal prompts. Grab your journal, write the question down. What does your ego effort mentality chatter sound like? Because it's hard to change things when we don't have awareness. It's hard to change things when we don't have awareness. So the first step is starting to understand, what does that voice sound like and what triggers it? Right? So those are some examples. And not just the chatter in the mind, but what does it feel like in your body when you go from being in your power to going into the effort mentality? Because as soon as we go into the effort mentality, we're giving our power away to it and to our ego. And then the ego's like, yes, great. Now I can now she's going to go binge. Now she's going to go do this. Now she's going to self-sabotage. Now she's going to throw herself under the bus. Now, because I'm in power, I'm going to make her people please and do things she doesn't want to do and blah, blah, blah. Like it just fuels the self-sabotage and keeps us stuck. So what are the physical sensations in the body, right? When I used to give my power away to the effort mentality, I would just feel this tightness in my chest. My shoulders would come forward. I'd feel my body would feel tighter. I'd have like amplified cravings. I'd feel so much guilt and shame, but at the same time, it's like my eyes would glaze over and the dopamine would start to surge because I'd be anticipating eating the junk food and the sugar. And I'd be like, that's going to be so good. And then I'm like, no, again, no, you're doing this again. Like, how are we ever going to move forward if you keep doing this? But my ego's like, no, like this is the last time, just do it. And what's a couple more pounds? What's a little bit more water retention today? Like, you deserve this. It's a reward. You already failed, blah, blah, blah. Like, And it just would be this like mishmash disaster of like, I get it. I get where you're at. It's not fun. And it doesn't have to continue. And that's one of the reasons that I love recording this podcast and being of service and coaching my clients and creating everything I do, is because I get where you're at. I really do. I think you can feel it in what I have to share, because I've been there. I've had all the ego mindsets and patterns. I still have some, not to do with food, but like we're human and we have our stuff, but this used to be me to a T. Right? Or when I first started my business, if I'd by accidentally like have a tech issue or some kind of like a glitch, I get so upset and be like, oh, this is so annoying. And then it's like, this is part of running your business. You're going to have to get overreacting and like be patient. And now if something comes up, I'm just super patient. Like a while ago, my whole website just like went down and I'm like, I can either freak out or I can be chill, email my web guy, and like, it's going to get sorted out. There's just no point in getting worked up anymore. But that's ego mastery. That's working on the ego. But what does it feel like in your body when you give your power away? And, after you, walk by the counter, you're like, crap, oh my gosh, my favorite food, don't have any, no, have it, have some, don't have it, right? The contraction, the tightness in the body, the stress, the anxiety, like what comes up for you? I think it's so important to build this awareness. Do you get a headache? Do you get a knot in your stomach? What are the physical sensations? Right? So build awareness with this, because this is part of what's going to help you catch this effort mentality, is being aware of what it feels like in your body. And not only do we have the effort mentality with food and with, getting triggered to self-sabotage, we have it with diets, right? So you're into your diet. You're like, I'm going to eat fully clean today and do perfect, which perfection just doesn't exist. It doesn't leave any room for being human. And then you have like this used to be me. I'd like eat clean. And then I went to this event and I wasn't going to have anything at all, because I'm like, no, I have to be perfect on my diet. And then I had like one energy bite. And he goes like, F it, you ruined your diet. Who cares? Just eat whatever you want for the rest of the day. And it's like, wow, just such a hold. Right. And we're going to talk right away about what creates more of this mindset and behavior, because there's lots of like underlying pieces that are happening inside of you. But right, diets fuel this effort mentality when we're in that perfection, all or nothing. You may be in a mentality of like, I am going to, dedicate some time during lunch or in the morning or the evening for self-care today. And then the time comes and you're so overwhelmed, you're so stressed, you're so triggered, your ego's in full-blown control, and you're just like, F it, I'm not doing it. What's another day? I'm not doing it. Or F it, I'm not doing it, because if I don't know how to meditate perfectly, and if I don't know how to deep breathe perfectly, and if I don't know how to tap perfectly or journal perfectly or take a bath perfectly, there's no point in doing any of it. So F it. That is the ego. That is the ego. It's just so out to lunch. It's not the true you. The true you, if the true you came in and there was a state of balance in your mind, would go, oh, that's funny. I'm still going to do the self-care, even if I can't do it perfectly, because I know the benefits. It's going to really help me feel more calm, more peace, more grounded. It's going to prevent me from binge eating tonight. It's going to help my hormones balance and help my digestion feel better. It's going to help me over time feel my worth and my power and learn to love myself. Right? But then we go into that effort mentality. I don't have time. If I can't do it perfectly, what's the point? And you may notice that showing up in your business, your career, your work, your habits, your relationships. Where else do you see this effort mentality behavior come up for you? Another great journal prompt. Spend some time reflecting, because it's usually not just this one area. It usually ripples out into other areas as well. Very important. So what creates this mindset and behavior? What creates it? Actually, first I want to share a story. So at a client session today, amazing client. I'm so grateful for her. And we get on the session and I always ask, what do you want to celebrate as we get started? And I could just like feel the shift of her energy and like this expansion and power and amplification and her worthiness coming forth. And she's just like, I know we talk a lot about what power is and what it feels like and what like your frequency going up feels like and raising your vibration. And she's like, I get it intellectually, but she's like, I don't think I really know what it felt like until now. And she shared with me just a circumstance that she went through where she made a big life change. And now she's feeling so empowered. She felt her frequency go up when she made the decision. All these new doors are opening for her and all these opportunities. And she's like, if this was a year ago, she's like, I'd be a mess. And she's like, I'd be so stressed and so much anxiety. And she's like, I don't know if I'd know what to do. And she's like, now she's like, there's unknown and it's uncomfortable, but she's like, I don't want to binge. I don't want to self-sabotage. I just want to take even better care of myself. She's like, this is power. Like, she's like, I'm claiming my worth. She's like, I'm not letting this circumstance trigger me into the epic mentality. And she's like, it's thanks to what we're doing together. And I just said, it's a pleasure to witness you going through this and witnessing you stepping into your power. But it's because we've been working on our ego mindset, working on dismantling patterns that don't serve her, working on helping her catch and overcome the binging and purging, and then the binging and now the minimal emotional eating that's rarely happening anymore. Like her really understanding how powerful and how worthy she is, just like all of you are worthy and powerful. It's just reconnecting it and reclaiming it and remembering who you are. And that's why the consistent coaching and support and loving accountability are all so powerful, because it helps you do all of that. And then you remember who you really are. And then you make powerful changes. You take the steps. You stop tolerating being treated like crap, right? All these things. It's amazing. And your physical health improves, your emotional, your spiritual, your energetic, it all shifts, and you create this powerful life that you know you deserve to have, or it just keeps getting better. And that's what you deserve. And that is here for you. And that's what happens when we work through the effort mentality and we stop letting it call the shots. We stop letting the ego call the shots, and we call the shots. So what creates this mindset, this effort mentality, behavior, and mindset? Okay. So I think one of the first things is we get into a pattern. Like when I was a kid, and it's not a blame, but I would just witness a parent go into this mentality and be like, well, F it, what's the point? Blah, 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 blah. So part of it is inheritance from family members when we're growing up in the environment that we're in, seeing it in the content that we consume. And by the way, sometimes the content we choose to consume can be more toxic than the food we're choosing to self-sabotage with. And I'm going to talk more about that, but I think it's becoming more and more prominent and obvious now of that there is so much garbage out there that we're feeding into our minds. And it's not like we can't ever consume anything that isn't, but like, holy crap, it's bad. It's really bad. And my new project that I'm going to start working on that I'll share more about in the new year is going to dive deep into this. And it's really going to open your eyes if they're not already open. And I hope help bring you more understanding. Side note, I've got to tease that because it's going to be so good. But it's our upbringing. It's the content we consume. It's the collective society and the way that they're behaving in this effort mentality. Who cares? What's a little more? It's the freaking commercials. Spotify. There was one commercial and it was literally like, just go ahead. You've had a bad day. Eat the whole pint of ice cream. Just who cares? And it's like, no, let's not have ads and commercials like enabling binge eating. Because we take all this on subconsciously and then we justify why it's okay. We take on the behavior. And then, of course, what else up to this point creates this mindset and behavior? Well, a big one is overwhelmed nervous system, high cortisol, high stress hormones. You're constantly having a surge of adrenaline and cortisol surging through your body. And as that happens, you get more tired and more fatigued and more stressed and spread too thin. And the more tired, fatigued, and spread too thin you feel, the less like yourself you feel. And the less like yourself you feel, the easier it is for your ego to kick in and take over. And I talk to my clients about this all the time. And I go through this too. And the easier it is for the ego to kick in, the more tired you are, the more hangry you are, the more cravings you have. It's just so much easier to be like, F it, who cares? I just want this. I want the quick fix. I want the quick dopamine high. I want the quick numbing, the quick pleasure, the quick distraction, the quick shoving down of what I'm feeling right now because it's too uncomfortable to feel. It's inconvenient to feel. It's not the right time to feel. I just don't want to feel, or I'm afraid to feel, or I don't want it. I want the quick fix because we've been conditioned into this quick fix, right? However, in the long run, it's really contributing to a detriment, to our health declining, more symptoms, more inflammation, high blood pressure, weight gain, blood sugar issues, increased cravings, fatigue, bloating, more gut issues, more amplifying of symptoms of current diagnoses that you have already, your enjoyment of life, your emotional state, your quality of life. It's all impacted. Your frequency, your intuition, it's harder to access your spiritual gifts. And then stuff going on in the world has more of an impact. The collective energy outside of you has more of an impact. It's easier to give your power away to that versus when we're more aligned, we're not in self-sabotage, even though there's a lot going on in the world, regardless of your perceptions of it. You don't have to take it on. You take on a lot less of it. There's days where I wake up and I can feel the collective energy and I'm like, okay, this is totally not mine. I need to go and clear energy and do my self-care practices and give this back because I am not processing this stuff for the collective. This is not mine. And we get to claim those energetic boundaries. But if we're overwhelmed and we don't know how to navigate that, instead of actually gaining clarity of, oh, I'm taking stuff on that isn't even mine, or I'm spread too thin, so I need to deal with that, we just go in self-sabotage and keep making it worse. Right? So if we have an overwhelmed nervous system, we want to deal with that. And that's where hormone testing, that's where talking about your lifestyle, talking about your patterns, behaviors, your mindset, your self-worth. Do you feel you put your worth in how much you do versus it being a feeling no matter how little or how much you do, right? Are you spreading yourself too thin? Are you people pleasing? Are you in the proving perfection mentality? I have so many clients that have situations when they're kids where they get ignored or they don't get the same amount of attention as their siblings. And so then they get into this story and identity of, I'm going to prove to everyone that I'm better. And then they overgive and they end up throwing themselves on the back burner. And then they suffer and they grew up with self-sabotaging behaviors and binge eating and all the stuff that we talk about here. And it causes suffering. And we don't want that. I don't want you to suffer. I want you to heal this so that you can have the freedom, the happiness, and the tools to cope when you are pissed off, when you do get angry, when you do have fear, when you go into lack, when you go into worry, because it happens. But then you have the tools to process through and take your power back. And that's huge, to have the tools. Because my ego kicks up, what was it, Sunday? Or the weekend one day, I woke up and I was just like, and I did my sacred rage and I tapped and I did my stuff and I was like, I feel so much better. And I sat outside for a little while, just like, it feels so much better. I'm so grateful for my tools. My ego still has its moments, but it's not nearly as loud as it used to be. And that's the point, ego mastery. So if you don't have time and space to feel or process through your emotions, if you're not opening or allotting any time for you, right, it's going to be really hard to quiet the ego, take your power back, and quiet this effort mentality because nervous system's ramped up, flooding adrenaline and cortisol through your body, blood sugar spiking and dropping, increased cravings, increased appetite levels, feeling more tempted and vulnerable with food makes it so much easier to be like, F it, I'm just going to go eat whatever I want. It's been a bad day. I need a reward, whatever the justification is. Okay. Another big part of what creates this mindset and behavior is the more you repeat the pattern, the more you wire the pathway, the neural pathway in the brain. And so then when you experience the circumstance of, I get home and the house is a mess, that pathway lights up and goes, oh, time to say F it, go self-sabotage with food. Oh, there's that thing in the office, temptation food. I had one, F it. The day is ruined. What's one more day of binges? What's 3 more pounds? Those mentalities come in because you're wiring the pathway in the brain and you're literally wiring an extreme. I'm either all in or I'm all out. It's similar to the all or nothing mentality. There's no balance. There's no middle ground of oh, well, I had that nice, someone brought pumpkin pie tarts in for Thanksgiving because it's our Canadian Thanksgiving next week. I know it's so much earlier than the American Thanksgiving, which I like because then we have more of a break before Christmas. But anyways, but yeah, maybe someone brings in pumpkin pie tarts. You're like, okay, I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to enjoy it slowly, eat it mindfully. And instead of that F mentality being you've messed up the day and now you have to you've screwed up. So just eat whatever you want. You're like, I'm enjoying this and I can still enjoy the rest of the day. I can hydrate. I'm going to have my favorite tea. I can have my nourishing supper. I'm human. And part of being human is I'm going to enjoy a mindful indulgence sometimes. And that doesn't mean the rest of the day has to be a write-off, but to get to that point where that feels natural and normal for you, there's patterns to dismantle in your brain. There's ego work to do. There's emotional work to do. Okay. And so that's where getting support can be one of the most powerful things that you can choose to do. whether it's with me or someone else, whoever you feel comfortable with. This is the mastery. This is the freedom and the ease and the peace. Because now when I indulge, there's no effing mentality. There's no guilt. There's no shame. I enjoy what I want and then I move on, right? Like Thanksgiving next weekend. We're going to host Thanksgiving and we're going to have all the beautiful foods. And, you know, I'm Ukrainian and my cousin's going to bring pierogies and her uncle's famous ham recipe. It's so good. And I'm going to make a beautiful pumpkin pie and apple crisp and all these amazing things. And we're going to just enjoy it and enjoy the food and the company and the interaction and the memory and savor all of it. And then we'll move on, and there will probably be some leftovers, but we'll move on, and it won't just be like, oh my God, like I've eaten this. Now I'm going to just binge. That would have been the old me, but it's been dealt with. So this is what gets to shift for you. And if you're going, or your ego's going, I can't imagine, I just don't think I could get there. Well, yes, you can. Because if I could do it and go from eating out of my garbage can and literally the one night going a step further and throwing it in the dumpster outside, the old Crave cupcakes, and then going and digging through the dumpster to get them and eat them, like to where I am now, you can totally do it too. Are you willing to show up? You show up, you take on the recommendations, you will create the freedom and the change you seek. That's what I say. You don't show up, which is honestly a very rare thing. It's very rare someone doesn't show up in my world. Well, then you might not make the change. It's up to you. What do you want? But I can tell you between now and like February, it feels so good to have support and to heal your relationship with food and not be tempted by food, because it is literally food season, right? The Halloween candy's been out since like the end of July. The Christmas stuff's going to be out soon. And then you have everything in between. So if you want support to not feel so tempted, reach out, book a 30-minute body freedom consultation. So there's this pathway we wire in the brain. So we need to learn about like neural pathway patterning and our dopamine levels. And the lower our dopamine levels are, which is that feel good neurotransmitter that the brain produces to give us that high, that quick pleasure response. Well, guess what? The more we regulate our hormones, balance our digestive system, overcome emotional eating and binge eating, start to build baby step, and it's always baby steps, one step at a time, into like healing your relationship with food and overcoming the binge eating and the emotional eating. You regulate your dopamine levels and you actually realize that you can create healthy amounts of dopamine and serotonin, which is produced in the gut. That's also great for mood boosting, and produce them in more consistent levels. And then instead of like feeling a low emotionally and then needing to reach for that dopamine quick fix from food to get a quick surge and then a drop again, you actually learn that you have the power to produce dopamine and serotonin on your own. And it's very powerful. I can sit in meditation for 5 minutes now and have a massive surge of serotonin and dopamine, more than what sugar could have ever given me in the past. And it just goes to show you how powerful we are and how powerful our bodies are, but we haven't been taught that. So I'm here to help teach you and remind you how powerful you are and how powerful your body is, and that you get to create this for yourself without sabotaging and hurting yourself. It's amazing. If you want to come learn with me, one-on-one's available. You can come to the membership. It's $44 USD a month, and you can learn all the meditations and visualizations and the self-care sessions to help you boost your mood and feel so connected to yourself. Come and join us. Come and play. It's so fun. So there's the dopamine piece. Okay. If you're a sensitive empath, like I talked about earlier, and you're really sensitive to energy, you feel other people's stuff. Maybe you take on other people's stuff really easily. Maybe you feel the collective energy really easily. It's like you wake up and you're like, something must have happened because I can feel. And then you like, someone sends you something like, oh, that's why I feel the collective because this happened, right? That's being an empath. And so when we're really sensitive empaths, if our nervous system's already overwhelmed, if we feel like we're already spread too thin, it can be so much easier to go into that FM mentality because we don't have good energetic boundaries. We don't probably have a good energy hygiene routine or self-care routine to help us get grounded and clear out the stuff that isn't ours. So I also help my clients to deal with being an empath and bring in healthy boundaries and different easy tools to help you manage your energy, which is really important if you're an empath. And if you're overbooked, people pleasing, proving, and the perfection mentalities or all or nothing mentalities, which all what's below that unworthiness, not feeling good enough, right? We all have our reasons why that is and what's brought us to this point. But we want to work on building your worth because like I shared with my client earlier, she's stepping into her worth and power, and therefore she's not willing to prove and people please anymore. And that's what's helping her to change her life for the better. She's not willing to be tolerated, being treated like crap, right? She's not willing to put her health on the back burner for her job anymore. So all of that's changing for her because she's choosing to make the change. And that's completely on her. I never make this. It's like my clients will come in and they'll be like, this is going on. And then we talk about it. And then they're like, months later or a year later, they're like, I'm changing my career or my job, or I'm starting a business. And I'm like, amazing. So not only does healing your relationship with food and your body help you feel so much more attuned and aligned and happier and confident and freer in your body, it helps you call in what you're here to do for the world, your job, your career. Maybe you finally get pregnant because your fertility improves and you finally get to fulfill your desire to be a mother or a father, or you meet the love of your life, or all of the above, like whatever it is, it comes in while we heal. Because guess what? From a manifestation standpoint, when you're hurting yourself with food and you're in your ego all the time and you're in the effort mentality, you're vibrating at a lower level. We tolerate more. We stay in circumstances that probably aren't in our greater good anymore. And we just stay there. But as we start to heal and change, we muster up the courage, the bravery, more doors open, your frequency rises, you become more of an energetic match for what you want. And then it comes in. It's so powerful. You deserve this. We all do. So, okay, now I'm very aware of what the effort mentality is. You're gaining clarity. So now what do I do? Okay, let's talk about some steps you can take. Well, the first step is awareness. I've given you a lot of questions to journal on and reflect upon today. So get your journal out after this episode. Go and do some journaling. Even listen to this more than once. Like these episodes, you're going to take something different away every time you listen to it. Or maybe you want to like listen to one chunk and listen to it a few times and absorb, right? But listen more than once. It's going to help you gain more clarity and you'll take different things away. But build awareness. What does my effort voice sound like? What does it feel like when I give my power away to my ego? That's important. If you don't have awareness, it's hard to really do anything else. Secondly, are you a sensitive empath? Do you find it's really easy to take on other people's stuff? Right? If you are you willing to start setting healthy boundaries? Like if people are just coming in dumping on you and that's all the friendship is good for, then maybe you need to have a conversation with your friend and go, hey, like I'm noticing you're just coming to me with all your stuff all the time and I love you. However, like I can't just have this be our dynamic, right? Or maybe you respond less to certain people and that opens up more time for you to have for yourself to take care of you, right? But we can work on energy hygiene. Working on boundaries is very important as well. So when you have the effort mentality come up, I want you to start practicing this, okay? So when it comes up, you can go, okay, I know it's going to feel strong in the moment because it's a pattern I've repeated multiple times. However, if I choose to tolerate the effort mentality again, am I willing to deal with the consequences? More bloating, more weight gain, more puffiness, more inflammation, more mindless money spent, more mindless eating and self-sabotage, more shame, more embarrassment, more guilt, right? Having to spend more money on different sizes of clothing in my closet. Like, am I willing to tolerate more of what I don't want because I'm letting this ego mentality lead me, right? What does it cost me to keep letting the ego mentality lead me? Or what would balance look like right now? If my ego effort mentality comes up, what does balance look like once I catch it instead of extreme? So you start with these things, breathe a bit while you're thinking about it. Because the more you can regulate your nervous system, the sooner you'll take your power back. And then the last piece is, of course, like I was saying earlier, this is very deep. This is very multi-layered. We've got pathways, we've got dopamine, we've got serotonin, we've got hormone imbalances and gut imbalances contributing to this. We've got programming from a young age and conditioning from our families and society. We've got unworthiness. We've got being an empath. We've got all of these things going on internally within us that we're feeling and trying to work through. So this is where I really want to extend the invitation to you. I invite you to reach out for support. amberproof.ca, you can schedule your consultation, book a 30-minute body freedom consultation, and let's connect and talk about this and what is going on for you and why you're feeling out of your power. I've got women that come to work with me from all walks of life. I've recently connected with, and brought on, I've worked with a lot of nurses, a lot of doctors, therapists, psychotherapists, like coaches, business owners, mom, like it doesn't matter, but it's just like, it's so cool to see like from every walk of life, investment bankers turn like business owners, starting their own businesses. It's like, yes. So it doesn't matter what walk of life you're in. It's that a lot of us have the same habits, mentalities, beliefs, and behaviors going on. You're not alone. And I really encourage you to realize what is available for you: freedom, awareness, support, loving accountability, right? Having someone hold space for you so that you can be supported and heard in a non-judgmental environment, a safe environment, right? Think of how incredible it would be if you could learn how to call your ego out and take your power back in like 5 to 10 minutes versus 5 to 10 days, right? So let's take a minute or two before we wrap up. And I want to just end with a visualization, a quick visualization. And by all means, you can spend longer in this on your own if you desire to do so. So I want you to just close your eyes and take a deep breath. And I want you to envision what it can feel like for you. If you feel this effort mentality coming and ramping up, but instead of like swerving hard to the left and giving into it, you actually felt the urge, but then you had the tools and support to actually stay in your power. You have a little pumpkin tart, but then you just keep moving through your day. You keep hydrating, you take your vitamins, you eat a mindful dinner, you still go through your self-care, you have a great sleep that night, instead of having the pumpkin tart and then eating 6 more and stopping for fast food on the way home and then throwing your self-care practice out the window, binge watching TV until 2 a.m, waking up tired, puffy, bloated, irritable, and then repeating it all that day because now you're tired and irritable and you're totally in your effort mentality. How would it feel for you to bring in balance and mindfulness and have that lead your day, have intention lead your day versus the opposite? How would it feel for you to live more in your heart and lead yourself versus that loud ego in the mind? How would it feel for you to have your ego ramp up and tell you, who cares, just go eat? And then for you to go, you know what? I actually have the tools and I have what I need to be able to work through this without food. In fact, I don't need food at all. What I really need is this other thing. So I'm going to go do that instead. Think of the confidence that builds for you because you actually know what you need instead of food. Think of what it would feel like to fully dismantle that pattern in the brain of the effort mentality into more balance. Think of how it would feel to dismantle the pattern in the brain of using food as a coping mechanism and instead going, I'm going to give myself what I really need instead. How would it feel? Would you feel more calm, more peace, more happy, more confident, more abundant? Would you finally make the changes in your life that you know are going to benefit you and help you step more into the next level of up level, power, success, whatever it is you desire? What does that look like? It feels so good. Take as long as you want there. Just pause this if you want. But you deserve to have that. Freedom. Like, this is the word that's just coming up lately. That's what you get to create when we work together, when you come forth and we do this healing. It's freedom. It's peace. It's more ease. It's more confidence and power and being sure in who you are. It's intuition. It's everything. So I hope you've really enjoyed today's episode. I've thoroughly enjoyed recording this for you and being here with you today. As always, the show notes for today's episode can be found at amberapproved.ca/podcast/440. You can go to amberapproved.ca and take the free emotional eating quiz if you're wondering if you're struggling. You can also learn more about body freedom and book your consultation if you feel called. If you are interested to hear more about the Body Freedom Mastermind, info at amberapproved.ca, subject line mastermind. Otherwise, I'm sending you so much love. I'm cheering you on, and there's no better time than the present to take action on your health, your ego mindset, and your effort mentality. So take a step now. It could change your life forever, and this could be your first life-changing step. I'm here for it. Have a beautiful day, a great week, and I will look forward to sharing a whole new solo episode with all of you beautiful souls next Sunday. Take care.